ones that come out and are placed by Corrections, Department of Justice into a place. They have to live somewhere once they've done their sentence, and people in the community find out that they've moved in, and there's all sorts of conflict and tension, and that person has to move on. There's a whole range of things I think that we need to think through. For example, if a perpetrator is at risk of reoffending, and I'm not sure that we can ever say that a perpetrator who's been convicted of sexual assault isn't ever at risk of reoffending, so I have a reasonably pessimistic outlook on those treatment outcomes, but that's me. I think that what we need to then say is who needs to know in a community about where they are? Is it the general population? And do we treat them differently than if a murderer was released from jail and moved in next door? And I think the answer is yes, I think we should, but I'm not sure that the general community should know that. I think that community leaders, people who are in positions of some responsibility around children should know. And that should be a much more open form of communication, like the principal of a primary school, or the principal of a school, the local GP. Places that the people who are in some position to be able to offer some other form of monitoring of this particular individual, in addition to what it is that's being offered through the legal system. Right now, those answers aren't there. And what we do is we're so locked into our views that we can't move outside of trying to find a solution to this. There has to be some solution. Someone who's convicted of a sexual assault, even if they go through and finish their whole sentence, right? End their sentence. The state has no power over them unless they're more serious, unless they reach other sorts of thresholds. So are there ways for us to continue to monitor them? Now, we've come up with things like the National Child Sex Offender Register, and that has some benefits and it has some disadvantages as well. So these are issues that are being grappled with that don't have a clear answer. But for you, as a community, it would be really hard for you to know what to do.
Are there other Scoot?
There's a gentleman up the back.
Scoot.
I'm waiting back here.
And Judy, is that you? Good.
Is it me first?
No, Judy's first, actually.
You talked about, as a community, supporting or looking out for ways to stop abuse or seeing. What do we do as a community to support victims from the past? Because I think that also sends a very strong message to current perpetrators, and that's probably something that we're really grappling with.
Yeah. Well, it's not rocket science. The first thing is you believe them, you support them, you don't stigmatise them further, or in some way don't make it harder in their life because of the stand that they've taken. The one thing that makes survivors, if you want to use that language, be able to travel that road of following through with a prosecution is having 1, 2, 3 people around them who can support them and be connected with them, and the pain that they feel every day. This is not something that you let go of. You move in and out of it, you have a different relationship with the trauma that you've experienced, but you hold it. And when you start to bring it back up, and you have to go through the police processes, it's like the impact is like it's likened to or similar to the experience of it itself. So you can't walk away from that, and it needs people to connect with them and support them, and to not celebrate, but respect, acknowledge what it is that it takes for them to do it. The courage, the determination, and support, I guess, the principle that they're trying to achieve, or the objectives they're trying to achieve, to bring that person to some justice. And I think that's important for everybody.
Joe, just want to take one more question from Dr. Sue Lewis, and the reason I'm curtailing is because we've got some more speakers as well.
Yeah.
So Dr. Sue Lewis, please.
Just wanted to make a comment, going back to your previous statement about a perpetrator, that I think in a community like this we have a bit of an issue because we believe in people repentance. We believe in that, and we also believe in not gossiping. It's an important thing. And I think something you said is important and should be underlined a bit. That one of the ways, because sometimes people are not convicted. It's very difficult to get a conviction on these historical matters, and so people they may assume, everything's fine then. One of the issues is that whether the perpetrator can acknowledge that there's a minimising, pushing it aside. And I think if people want to know whether they can trust that person, again, what you were saying really is how much they acknowledge. And if they do acknowledge, and if it's a genuine acknowledgement, that can give you some sense of comfort in that. But if that's not there, which I think is very often not there, people should be very alarmed.
Yeah.
Whether there's a conviction or no conviction.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very, very much. I think everybody was really engaged. I was kind of thinking while Joe comes down, while he was talking about where to put those past criminals or whatever, I was thinking about the last three parashiot, which all talk about Arei Miklat and cities of refuge and how that might be applied and halachic sources for that. Vivian's been really passionate tonight because she's very, very involved in child protection, and she actually stole a bit of my thunder, referring to an article that she actually gave me when she brought a whole lot of material around to my place today in preparation for tonight, and talked about how numbers had appeared to have dropped, and what we were both talking about before with the 286 and the 350, and whether you say it's definitional or whether in fact numbers have dropped. And this article that Vivian was referring to, Vivian Rashofsky was referring to, was specifically related to the issue of public awareness and adult education and having a part in reducing the incidence. And so I think that one of the benefits of tonight and the organisers of tonight is to bring that awareness. And there's a gentleman here quietly sitting there who's going to write in the Age, maybe. It's something that the community broadly needs to be more and more aware of, and that's, I think, what we're about tonight. Now, sitting on my left is Mary Cincotta. There's Kathy Cincotta. I'm sorry, I just...
Mary, if you so desire.
Is there a Mary in the family?
No, well, there could be. You know,
I treated a Mary. I treated a Mary Cincotta at one stage. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anyway, but Kathy Cincotta and Tanya Gunas, Department of Human Service practitioners from the Southern Region Child Protection, who have many years of experience in the area of child protection. Kathy herself is team leader of the Child Protection Response Southern Metropolitan Region and Cheltenham office, and Tanya, Southern Region Child Protection Manager. And they, I don't have more material, but if you want to, sort of elaborate about yourselves and any information, private information you want to disclose, feel free. But the two of them are going to make a presentation together. Can you sit right in the middle where everyone can see you? Stand over there.
Do we have to? I don't like standing up in the middle.
I understand. Would you want me to stand next to you to make you feel more comfortable? Okay. Are you coming? Are you part of this?
Kathy can do the presentation and I can answer questions if you like.
Right. Yeah, we like. Yeah, we like. Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the role of child protection and obviously just some of the understandings in child protection. So I am going to be reading from my little blurb here because I am very nervous, just so you don't know. So obviously, look, the role of child protection is to receive reports from people who believe on reasonable grounds that a child is in need of protection because of abuse or neglect. Child protection provide advice where people report such concerns. Child protection's role is to investigate matters where it is believed that a child is at risk of significant harm as a result of abuse or neglect. Child protection's role is to ensure that a family is ensure that the support is offered for family to minimise the risk of harm to children. Child protection's role is to take matters to the children's court if the child's safety cannot be assured within the family. And child protection's role is to look at supervising children on legal orders that are granted by the children's court. So here in Melbourne we've got 2 children's courts. We've got the children's court in Melbourne and we've also got the children's court in Moorabbin that's been open for a couple of years. And the majority of the work that we do in the southern region is heard at the Moorabbin Justice Centre, which is just down on Nepean Highway and Hyatt. Child Protection Service provides a child protection crisis line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for telephone information and referrals from the public regarding child protection matters. The After Hours Child Protection Service investigates urgent after hours notifications of new cases of suspected child abuse, and rural officers provide local after hours outreach services as well. So we have a lovely act called the Children, Youth and Families Act 2005, which actually regulates our practice. And in the Children, Youth and Families Act, there's a section 162, which outlines the types of abuse that Child Protection look to work with. So for the purposes of the Act, the child is in need of protection if any of the following grounds exist. So there's 6 grounds. So A is that the child has been abandoned and his or her parents, and after reasonable inquiries, a parent cannot be found or no other suitable person can be found who is willing and able to care for the child. There's section 162B, which is that the child's parents are dead or incapacitated and there is no other person willing or able to take care of the child. C, the child has suffered or is likely to suffer significant harm as a result of physical injury and the child's parents have not or are unlikely to protect the child from harm of that type. Section D, the child has suffered or is likely to suffer significant harm as a result of sexual abuse and the child's parents have not or are unlikely to protect the child from harm of that type. Section E, which is the child has suffered or is likely to suffer the emotional or psychological harm, such a kind that a child's emotional and intellectual development is or is likely to be significantly damaged, and the child's parents have not or are unlikely to protect the child from harm of that type. And F, the child's physical or health has been or is likely to be significantly harmed, and the child's parents have or have not provided, arranged or allowed the provision of, or are unlikely to provide, arrange or allow the provision of, basic care or effective medical, surgical or other remedial care. Under that section we also have a section for cumulative harm. So it's section 162, section 2, which says, for the purposes of subsection 1, blah, 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 the harm may be constituted by a single act, omission or circumstances or accumulation through a series of continuing acts or omissions of circumstances. So I know that's all lots of wordy, but obviously what it says is that there's a likelihood. It doesn't mean that we have to have proved that something's happened, but there could be a likelihood based on the fact that people don't provide the support or the need for it not to occur. There were statistics before about how many cases child protection get notified for within the country. Obviously here in southern region we cover a very large catchment, so we cover a catchment of basically from say Port Melbourne all the way down to the peninsula. So we've got a huge area in southern. So we have 3 offices within the southern region. We